Last week, we learned that the part of you that binges is trying to protect you, not sabotage you. But here's the thing, that part doesn't trust you yet. And until it does, it's going to keep doing what it has always done. Today, we're talking about how to build trust with your parts, what questions to ask them, and how to finally stop the internal war. Welcome to Binge Eating Breakthrough, the podcast to help you stop feeling out of control around food and build trust with your body. If you've tried everything but still feel stuck, you're not alone. I've been there too. I'm Jane Pilger, and I'm here to help you see binge eating in a new way so you can finally break free. Each week, you'll get the tools and insights to create peace with food and your body. Your breakthrough starts now. Hello, trusted listener. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you are here ready to learn how to work with the parts of yourself in practical, concrete ways. I trust that you're willing to approach this with curiosity and compassion rather than just looking for another way to control or fix yourself. Now, before we dive in, I want to say something important. If you have not yet listened to last week's episode, I really encourage you to hit pause right now and go listen to part 1 first. That episode is foundational for understanding what we're going to talk about today. We covered what parts are, why you have them, and specifically why the part that binges or wants to eat a lot of food is trying to protect you rather than sabotage you. And today's episode builds directly on those concepts. So if you haven't heard part 1, go back and listen to that one first and then come back here. Now, if you did listen last week, I'm going to do a really quick recap before we move forward. We talked about the concept of parts, how you have different parts of yourself, each with their own perspective, their own feelings, their own protective purpose. We talked specifically about the part that binges or wants to eat a lot of food and how most people hate that part and are at war with it. We explored how that part is actually trying to protect you, not damage you, even though its methods might be causing you pain. And we introduced the concept of the anchored self, the wise, grounded, compassionate center of who you are that exists beneath all of the parts. Now, today, we're going to get practical. We're going to talk about how to actually work with your parts, how to communicate with them, and most importantly, how to build trust so they don't have to fight so hard or be so extreme. But before we dive into the how-to, I want to address something really important, something that keeps a lot of people stuck, even when they understand that they have parts. There's not just the part that binges or wants to eat a lot of food. There's also the part that hates the part that binges. Let me say that again, because it's crucial. You have a part that wants to binge or eat a lot of food. And you have another part that criticizes the first part, that judges it, that's disgusted by it, that wants it to go away. This is the internal critic, and it's often just as loud and just as intense as the part that wants to eat. So what's actually happening inside of you is not just, I want to eat versus I don't want to eat. It's more like one part wants to eat and another part is screaming at that first part, telling it how terrible it is, how weak it is, how it's ruining everything. This is that internal war that I talk about. It's not just you versus food. It's part versus part fighting inside of you, with you caught in the middle. And here's what's so painful about this. When one part criticizes and shames another part, that criticized part usually doubles down. It fights harder. It gets more extreme. Because now it's not just trying to protect you from whatever it was originally protecting you from. It's also trying to protect you from the internal critic. Think about it this way. Imagine you have a friend who's struggling, and every time they make a mistake or do something they regret, you point your finger in their face and tell them how stupid and weak and terrible they are. Would that help them change? Would that build trust? Would that make them feel safe enough to try something different? No, of course not. It would make them defensive. It would make them shut down or rebel. It would damage the relationship and make it harder for them to trust you or accept help from you. That is exactly what happens with your parts. When the critical part attacks the part that binges, it doesn't help. It makes things worse. It keeps the cycle going. So one of the first things we need to do in learning to work with our parts is to notice when the critic is active. Notice when you are pointing the finger at yourself, when you're using harsh or judgmental language, when you are treating a part of yourself like an enemy. And then, as much as you can, try to shift from criticism to curiosity. Instead of, "You're so stupid. Why did you do that again? You have no willpower," you might say, "I noticed there's a part of me that really wanted to eat just now. I wonder what was going on for that part. What was it trying to protect me from?" This is a massive shift, and it's not easy, especially if you've been in the habit of self-criticism for a long time. But it's essential, because until your parts feel safe from internal attack, they are going to stay in defense mode. Now, let's talk about trust. This is really the heart of parts work. Your parts, especially that part that binges, that wants to eat a lot of food, don't fully trust your anchored self yet. They don't trust that you, the core you, can handle things. They don't trust that you'll take care of the actual needs underneath the binge urges. They don't trust that you'll protect them from restriction or judgment or overwhelm. So they keep doing what they've always done, because it's the only way they know how to keep you safe. Building trust with your parts is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. It takes time, consistency, and patience. But it is possible, and it changes everything. So how do you build trust? You start by actually listening. You start by getting curious instead of critical. You start by asking questions and genuinely wanting to understand the answers. So here's some questions you can ask a part that is active, whether it's the part that wants to binge or the part that is criticizing or any other part. What are you trying to protect me from right now? What do you need me to know? What would you need from me in order to trust me? What would you need in order to feel safe? That last one, what would you need in order to feel safe, is particularly powerful, because at the core of most binge eating, most emotional eating, most of the protective strategies our parts use, there is a lack of safety. There's a nervous system that's in survival mode, scanning for threat, trying to protect us from something. And when you ask a part what it needs in order to feel safe, you're opening a door to real conversation. You're acknowledging that it has needs, that it has wisdom, that it's not just an enemy to be defeated. Now, here's something really important. You might not get an immediate answer when you start asking these questions. You might ask these questions and hear nothing. Or you might hear something but not trust it. Or you might feel confused or like you're making it all up. This is completely normal, and I want to normalize it for you. If you have spent years ignoring your parts, fighting them, or being disconnected from your internal experience, it makes sense that you wouldn't immediately be able to hear them clearly. Parts work is a skill that develops over time. Just like learning any new language, it takes practice. At first, you might just catch a word here or there. And over time, you start to understand more. And eventually, you can have full conversations. So if you try this and you don't hear anything, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong or that you don't have parts or that this won't work for you. It just means you need more practice, more patience, and possibly more support. So let me give you another really practical tool that can help create some separation and awareness, even if you can't fully access or communicate with your parts just yet. It's really simple. You start using the language, a part of me. So instead of saying, I want to eat everything in the pantry right now, you say, a part of me wants to eat everything in the pantry right now. Instead of saying, I have no willpower, you say, a part of me feels out of control around food. Instead of, I'm so lazy, you say, a part of me doesn't want to take action right now. This language creates separation. It reminds you, you are not just this one part. You are not defined by the part that binges or the part that criticizes or the part that procrastinates. You are the anchored self, and these are parts of you, aspects of your experience, but not the totality of who you are. This simple shift in language can be incredibly powerful because it creates space. When you say a part of me, you're acknowledging there might be other parts with different perspectives. You're opening the door to curiosity instead of staying stuck in identification with just one part's experience. You might even start to notice, a part of me wants to eat this whole bag of cookies, and a part of me is scared of what will happen if I do. Both parts are there. Both are real. Both are trying to help in some way. And you, the anchored self, can hold space for both of them. Now, I also want to talk about what happens when you start to work with your parts. What does it actually look like when a part starts to trust you? It doesn't mean that the part goes away. It doesn't mean you never have urges to binge or eat a lot of food or eat in a way that you don't prefer again. What it means is that the part doesn't have to be so extreme. It doesn't have to fight so hard. It can relax a little because it knows you're paying attention, you're listening, you're taking care of things. For me, when the part that binge started to trust me, it meant I could feel an urge to eat and actually pause. I could have a conversation with that part instead of just giving in or white knuckling through it. I could ask, what's going on? What do you need right now? And I could hear the answer. We're exhausted. We need to rest. Or we're feeling really anxious about that thing coming up. Or we haven't eaten enough in the last few days and the body is in panic mode. When I could hear that information, I could respond to the actual need instead of just the symptom. And over time, that part learned it could trust me to take care of things, so it didn't have to resort to binging as often or as intensely. And this is the transformation I see with my clients all the time. When someone first learns about parts, they're either really excited because they can totally resonate with, yes, there are these multiple aspects of me, or there's skepticism or confusion. But as I mentioned last time, what's consistent is that when they start to learn about their parts, they gain information they wouldn't have had on their own. And they start to see what that part is protecting them from. They start to understand how to talk to it, what it needs, and then they're able to do things they couldn't do before. Maybe it's having a conversation with the part that really wants to eat in the moment, asking it what it needs, actually being able to choose a different response. Maybe it's having a conversation with the part that doesn't want to do something, the part that's keeping them stuck, and understanding what it's afraid of so they can finally take action. If you've got somebody who is stuck and can't move forward, parts work often helps them get into action. And on the other side, there are people who can't stop, who can't take a break, who are constantly doing and achieving and pushing, which was me. And those people are able to work with their parts and finally give themselves permission to rest, to slow down, to take care of themselves. Parts work addresses what's happening underneath the surface behaviors. As I say, underneath the hood. Those surface behaviors, the eating, that's the light on the dashboard. We have to get under the hood to see what's actually happening. It's not about willpower or discipline or following rules. It's about understanding your internal system and helping all of the parts work together toward your well-being instead of fighting against each other. Now, I want to be really truthful with you about this. This is deep work. This is the stuff that's happening under the hood that most diet programs, food plans never touch. And sometimes we can't access parts on our own. Sometimes we need support. We need someone who can help us identify and communicate with the different parts. Someone who can hold space for what comes up. Someone who can help us navigate the conversations and build that trust. I have so many conversations with people who have done a lot of things. Maybe they've tried other treatment. They've been through therapy. They've done all kinds of programs. And when I ask them and I talk to them about parts work, most people have not done any. And then they start to realize, this is different. And this is so much of the work that I do with my one-on-one clients. We work together to identify the parts. We understand what they're protecting. We learn how to communicate with them and ultimately help them trust the anchored self so that they can live in greater harmony with less pain. It's profound work and it creates lasting change because it addresses the root of the struggle instead of just trying to manage the symptoms. Now, if you're somebody who has been trying to do this work on your own, and you're finding that you can't quite access your parts, or you get overwhelmed when you try, or you're just not sure how to navigate the conversations, or you just can't seem to overcome that internal war with the part that eats and the part that hates the part that eats. This all makes complete sense. This is specialized work and it's okay to need support with it. I also want to mention, if you're not quite ready to work with somebody one-on-one, there are also other resources that can help. My book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough, goes deeper into this work. It includes questions you can ask your parts and frameworks for understanding your relationship with food. There's also a companion workbook that gives you structured exercises and prompts to work through on your own. Now, this book isn't 100% all about parts. There is a part of the book that goes into parts. And there are lots of other parts of this book and the companion workbook. It is a great resource if you want some additional support and you're not really ready for that one-on-one. They can be a great starting place if you want to explore parts work, nervous system work, emotional capacity, other aspects that are happening under the hood at your own pace before diving in to coaching or personalized support. And you can find links to both the book and the workbook in the show notes, or just search for them on Amazon. But if you are ready for one-on-one support, I do have limited spots opening up in December and into 2026. So if you're interested in working together, whether you want support through the holidays, or you're thinking about even starting the new year with this kind of deeper root cause work, I would love to have a conversation with you. You can reach out through my website to book a breakthrough call, and we can talk about what's going on for you, what you're struggling with, and whether working together would be a good fit. Again, I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. Now, before we wrap up, I want to set some realistic expectations about this work. Building trust with your parts, learning to communicate with them, helping them work together instead of fighting each other, this is not a quick fix. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes practice. You might have moments of clarity where everything makes sense, followed by moments where you feel confused and disconnected again. And that is normal. It's part of the process. Healing is not linear, but it can be profound when you truly are able to have that connection and that communication with your parts and they start to trust you. The changes are incredible. I was talking to a client just yesterday and she was telling me she's going through some really stressful stuff right now in her life. And she said, I have not binged at all. I have not had any urges. She was like, it feels magical. And that really is, it's a great way to describe it. It can feel magical. Now, the key here is to keep showing up with curiosity and compassion, to keep noticing your parts, keep asking the questions, keep using the language, a part of me, keep practicing gentleness instead of criticism. And over time, and I mean weeks and months, not days, you will start to notice shifts. Now, it could be days, but I don't want to set that expectation for you. For some people, it literally does happen that fast. Other people, it really does take some time. So I don't want you to hold on to the time frame. I want you to commit to this process and start to notice the shifts. You will catch yourself in the middle of an urge to eat and actually pause. You'll hear what a part is trying to tell you. You'll respond to yourself with kindness instead of that harsh judgment. You'll find yourself doing things you couldn't do before, or stopping things that you couldn't stop before. And this is the transformation that is possible when you stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. When you move from war to collaboration. When you help your parts trust your anchored self enough to relax and take on different roles. So here's what I want you to practice this week. Start noticing when different parts are active. Use the language of a part of me to create separation. When you notice a part, especially that part that wants to eat, get curious instead of critical. Ask it, what are you trying to protect me from? What do you need in order to feel safe? And be patient with yourself. You might not hear clear answers right away, and that's okay. Just the act of asking, the shift from fighting to listening is powerful. Your parts have been trying to protect you for a long time, often in ways that were learned very early in your life. They deserve your compassion, your patience, and your willingness to understand them. And you, the anchored self, the core of who you are, deserve to live in harmony with all of your parts instead of being caught in an endless internal war. This work is possible. Freedom from binge eating is possible. And it comes not from controlling or eliminating parts of yourself, but from understanding them, building trust with them, and helping them work together for your well-being. That's what I have for you today. I'll see you next week. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love my new book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough: Why Food Isn't the Problem and What Really Is. Discover why willpower isn't the answer, why restricting certain foods often backfires, and why understanding your brain and body is the key to lasting change. Learn to shift from shame and self-blame to curiosity and compassion. Get it today at janepilger.com/book.